Well, good morning. I'm Representative Garantar. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, joined by my colleagues, Senator Berta Gardner and Representative Harriet Drummond, all here from the Anchorage area, but here today to honor the 7th anniversary of the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. We were all very excited in 2008 when President Obama's first act in office was to sign this legislation. Lilly Ledbetter had worked for the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, and what she discovered after working there for 15 years, she had started out earning the same as her male coworkers, but after 15 years, what she learned was that the difference in pay every month meant that she was earning less than they were earning $18,000 more than she was every year. And so over the 15 years that she worked there, that's more than $270,000 difference in pay. And I'll tell you, for me, $270,000 would make a heck of a difference in my financial outlook. And so the Lilly Ledbetter filed an equal pay lawsuit regarding pay discrimination under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And this was not resolved in a sort of the most favorable way. President Obama then took action by signing that law. So we're happy to be here today. We're really excited that we're joining legislators and community organizations from around the country. There are actions taking place in more than 25 states today. We're excited that that effort is being featured in a Washington Post article here. So we have copies, and we'd love to share that with you so you can see that this is an issue that is, raising people are raising this issue around the country and see a need for taking action now. Nationally, women earn 77 cents for every dollar that a man earns. But in Alaska, we earn 67 cents for every dollar. So we have one of the most significant pay gaps of all the states. I'm pleased that a couple of us have signed up to take action on this. I have a piece of legislation we introduced last year, and mine is not as comprehensive as Senator Gardner, so I'm excited she's here today and going to talk about her recently introduced legislation. Mine calls the Department of Labor to produce a report on pay, and so it would give us an opportunity to look across professions and see where these differences are happening and how employers may not be following the law, and would give us the opportunity to take action. I'm excited to support Senator Gardner in her new legislation that is much more comprehensive, and I'm going to turn it over to her right now to tell you a little bit more.
So in the years leading up to World War I, my grandfather was a postmaster in a small town in Utah. And when he went off to war, Grandma took over the post office. Her name was Josephine, but she insisted that people call her Joe. And for some reason, the post office didn't realize she was a woman. And when Grandpa came back and took his job back, the post office realized their error and that they had paid her a man's wage for the years she ran the post office, and they made her pay it back. Yeah, shocking, isn't it? But you know what? It's not all that different today. So what we know is that although women, their participation in the workforce has grown over the years, and now women really are employed in every sector, and they're also more likely to work year-round than they used to be, that mothers are a big part of the workforce, and women's contributions to family income are often critical to family well-being. But as Representative Tarr said, Alaska has terrible statistics. We are #2 in the nation for the gender gap, and if you calculate part-time work into that, we are actually the very worst in the nation for pay equality. It's yet another abysmal indicator for women. So my bill, Senate Bill 153, has a lot of ways to help close that. The first one is wage transparency. Many employers prohibit their employees from disclosing what they make. That's always really irked me. I just think it's like a human right to be able to talk about what you earn. And so this prohibits that, and that way women can learn that they're making less than their colleagues. It also refines the criteria under which employers can justify wage discrepancy for women. And it gives a longer statute of limitations, so a woman can find out later and still bring a case. And it prohibits retaliation by employers for people who complain about wage discrepancies. So when I first started thinking about the gender pay gap and looking into it, I assumed that part of the reason was that women entered the workforce later. Maybe they had babies first, or they took time out to take care of small children. But I learned that in head-to-head comparisons of the same work, same level of education, same experience, and sometimes even in the exact same job, women still earn less in all industries, in all age groups, and all geographic areas. So even having a better education doesn't close the gap. Women with a bachelor's degree earn less than male counterparts with an associate's degree or just some level of college. And in Alaska specifically, in 2010, women in management, business, financial occupations earn 84 cents on the dollar. Women in sales earn 66 cents on the dollar. Engineers, 76 cents. And top female executives earn just 61 cents on the dollar compared to men. That's in Alaska today. Women in Alaska consequently have higher economic insecurity, and it's exacerbated by this, and it's even worse. All of these statistics, as shocking as they are, it's even worse if you're a woman of color. And that in itself is terrible. So there are a lot of facts and figures, but they all point to the same thing, and over time it means that the disparity in wages for a woman in her working life means she has less savings for retirement and medical care, there's less money available to help educate kids, there's less wealth accumulation in general, and there's a greater chance that despite being employed, a woman will still need public assistance to make ends meet for her family. I wish my grandmother could see me in a job where I'm guaranteed the same pay, and I really want to use this job to make sure that my 3 granddaughters and everybody's daughters, grandchildren, these young ladies who are with us here today, will have in their life the same opportunity to earn equal pay for equal work, no matter what it is they decide to do. And I hope that one day, as there were gasps here when I talked about my grandmother having to repay the man's wage she had earned, I hope people will be shocked and horrified and not tolerate women making less than men.
Alaska has a long history of leading the way for women's rights. When the first territorial legislature met in 1913 here in Juneau, its first act was to unanimously approve a bill to allow women to vote 7 years before the 19th Amendment would guarantee women's suffrage nationwide. Today, we are working hard to continue that tradition and ensure that women are treated fairly in this state. All of the women legislators in this building are guaranteed equal pay and benefits with our male counterparts, but Alaska women make less than men in every major industry in the state. That's just not right. We're pleased to be joined in our call for equal pay today in Alaska by the Alaska Women's Lobby, who have joined us here today. Welcome to former Representative Karen Robinson and statewide Women's Lobby Chair Jane Andreen. We have support from the American Association of University Women, as well as the YWCA Alaska, who last year initiated their Pay Gap Initiative. The YWCA Alaska is the only effort in the state with a specific timeline for accomplishing equal pay. They've set a date of 2025 for equal pay in Alaska. In just 1 year, the YWCA has earned more than 74 endorsements from business leaders, elected officials, and members of the community. We applaud them for calling for equal pay by 2025. But why wait until 2025? Let's do it today, this session. Thank you.
And we're so excited that we were joined with some young women today. And if you'll notice, their signs have the year of 2142. We wanted to highlight that year because if we don't do something and make this happen more quickly, at the current rate of equal pay, at the current rate that women are, catching up to their male counterparts, it will not be until the year 2142 that women in Alaska will have equal pay. I hope that everyone can think about why that's unacceptable and why it's important that we join in these efforts statewide to make this happen more quickly. And I agree wholeheartedly with Representative Drummond that why wait when we can do it today? We're so pleased to be joined with our male counterparts who understand this is an issue of fairness. It's a family issue. It's not just a women's issue, and they're standing up here to be supportive of us, and we're very appreciative and want them to, show that we need leaders among men, we need leaders among women to take action. Among the young women here joining us at the table is Juneau, and we just asked her, if she would comment on how she feels about the idea that she may never see equal pay in her lifetime if it takes till 2142.
So I'm Juneau Reese, and I'd just first like to thank everyone who came to this and Garen Tar for specifically letting me know this is going on. As a junior, this is the time in our life when, as high schoolers, when we're going to be deciding sort of what career paths we're going to take and what we want to do with our lives, And as a junior, it's kind of disheartening to know, actually it's very disheartening to know that nearly no matter what I choose to do, I'm going to be making 70 cents on the dollar compared to what my male counterparts are making. And that's extremely disheartening to know. And I'm sure it's, awful for my mother to know that, she hasn't made as much as me in her entire life. I'm probably not going to unless we take extreme action now, or that my daughter, if I choose to have one, will not even be paid equally to her male counterparts until she's an old lady. So, while it's great that we're taking steps in the right direction and by 2142 we'll, supposedly be being paid as much as men, I think we need to start making, leaps in the right direction and start taking drastic measures rather than sitting around and waiting for the right thing to happen. So, America can do better than that, the United States can do better than that, and Alaska can do much better than that. So, yay. Thank you. Yay.
Thank you for those excellent comments. And we'll just open it up if anyone has any questions for us. Thank you. Let any of you join in. We did want to give Alaska Women's Lobby Chair Jane Andreen a chance to comment if you'd like.
Thank you. I first heard about the unequal pay for women when I was in college. That was 40 years ago. And now I'm one of those old ladies that she was referencing. I am. I embrace that. When I first saw the sign over here that said we would be able to make up that gap by 2142, I read 2042. So I did the math and said, oh, it's going to take from the time I was 20 till I'm 87 for this to happen. Now I realize it's going to take until I'm 187. And I seriously thought I'm going to be here. But I think one of the reasons that we have to be really careful and be thoughtful about this, and it's been touched on today, is the impact this really has on families. I just recently, I spent the last 16 years working in public health, and one of the things we're studying and looking at in public health is the social economic status of societies and where that leads us. And the United States is far below other first world countries in terms of pay equity, salary equity, education equity, healthcare equity. And all of those contribute to a less sustainable, healthy society. 50% of all children of color in the United States live below the poverty line, and most of those children are living in single-parent homes with the mother, a female head of household. This is about our children, this is about women, this is about families, this is about all of us. So it's really important that we recognize the fairness and the importance of moving forward with this. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience?
Hi,
you wouldn't mind identifying yourself?
Yeah, Matt Bucks, Newsminer. Can you talk a little bit about just, how do we go about ensuring equal pay? There's legislation right now. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the mechanisms to make sure this happens? Yeah.
Well, I think that part of the reason it's persistent is because many people don't understand. Many women don't understand they're earning less than the people working beside them with the same qualifications, experience, and competence level. They don't know that. And part of that is the reason that I'm requiring in this statute wage transparency laws, that people can't be prohibited from knowing that they're being underpaid. That's one thing. Secondly, if a challenge is brought we're specifying the conditions under which an employer can justify paying a person less. I mean, if the employer can see that they have less experience or they're less effective or something, those are valid conditions, but they have to have a real reason that's demonstrable. Secondly, the statute of limitations. People find out years afterwards and, oh my gosh, well, you exceeded the time limit, too bad on you. So we're going back 10 years. You have 10 years to find out and do something about it. And we were also, there's a few other elements. One is that they have to post notices in the break room or workplace. That includes these elements, that you have a right to fair pay. So, you know, if people are determined to not do the right thing, it's very difficult to make statute that prohibits that and makes it happen and is enforceable. But part of it is just educating people and making sure everybody knows that they have a right to know if they're being fairly paid, and they have a right to do something about it, and it's wrong, it's illegal.
Beyond public policy, an initiative that's really taken off over the last several years is teaching women how to negotiate salaries so that, you know, they don't actually even start the job out being underpaid. And that's been shown to be a chronic problem. And there's some local Juneau women who were involved as part of a national effort and made videos actually to teach women how to use better negotiating skills in making sure they were being paid relative to their experience and what they had to offer. Anything to add?
Okay. I have one thing I'd like to add.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. And I meant to say this. You may see us smiling up here, but we're actually very angry, you know, and every woman should be.
James Brooks from the Juneau Empire. I was wondering what you would suggest that folks outside the Capitol do if they want to get involved, if they're interested in this issue. What can they do to help?
Well, write a letter of support for Senator Gardner's bill would be great. I actually have another bill. It includes another provision about minimum wage, so it's a little bigger than that. So please get involved with that and have a conversation with your friends, among friends, where it's a comfortable conversation, male and female friends. Ask if they've had workplace experiences. Talk to young women. It's so great to have them here today and have this conversation. And, you know, Juneau talking about she's on track to pick a career path right now. And this is something that will have an influence and make, you know, her maybe think about what decisions she's making. So changing the sort of culture around this is one thing that can happen outside of the building. And then we certainly welcome activism in terms of supporting the legislation, getting in touch. gov.alllegislators@alaska.gov is the email that gets to everyone, and let your legislator know this is an important issue that we should take consideration of.
And I think you can also raise awareness by writing letters to the editor, and particularly include personal experience where it's relevant, and you have a story about how it impacts either your own life or somebody else's life in the real world. That's incredibly impactful. It's about educating ourselves and each other.
Very good. Any other questions before we wrap up? Okay, well, we're very pleased that you joined us this morning, and tell everyone today that is the 7th anniversary of Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Day, and if they don't know what it is, that'll give you an opportunity to educate them about that, and that's one thing we can do. So thank you so much.
All right.